Welcome to another trial join video. In this video we'll be discussing how to regulate the workload of your clinical research coordinator, CRC, or also known as a site coordinator. A research site's daily worries vary from ordering supplies, scheduling follow-ups, compliance issues, data management, finding more studies, and principal investigator obligations. So in all this, we have to figure out how to make site coordinators work a little bit more manageable, because we all know how much they have to take on. So CRCs are one of the most important people in clinical trials, along with the PIs. They are the backbone of a study along with a PI. With the PI's guidance, they do conduct quite a bit of the necessities of a clinical trials. They're responsible for coordinating all the activities of a site, from the ones we mentioned before and quite a few others that probably wouldn't make sense to mention them on this video. So jumping into how to regulate the workload of a clinical research coordinator. Well, first, a CRC should be working between 4 to 6 hours effectively per day, and that comes out to days where that's seeing patients while also managing paperwork and still being able to take a breather, because we know we don't want them to get fatigued as they're interacting with patients, answering the questions, and all the tasks that they have to deal with on a daily basis. So CRC's workload depends on a few different factors. The first is the complexity of the study. The more complex the study, the more a coordinator has to spend time on that study. The patient visits might be a little bit more requiring of them. They might require a lot more procedures to be done, and sometimes these visits can go all the way up to 5 hours long on the more complicated side. And then you have to look at the frequency of patient visits. Do they only come in once for the study? Do they come back every 30 days, every week, or every other day? They're all different questions that you have to ask of the study to know how much workload to give to a CRC. Then you have to look at the number of enrolled patients for a study. While a study with 5 patients is definitely more manageable than a study with 50 patients or 100 patients. So sites normally have 1 or 2 active studies which they assign to a coordinator. 2 is kind of the common factor we've seen, but 3 is really at the maximum load of it. So you got to see how many studies they're actively working on, and take that into consideration. So here's an example of a CRC workload to help you figure out how to calculate how many hours they need. So let's say a typical patient visit lasts for 1 hour. Of course, some might be more. Every patient visit, the CRC will need approximately 3 more hours to gather and enter all the data into the EDC systems, the CTMS systems, and the regulatory documents. So think of every hour per patient visits requires 2 to 3 hours of additional work on the back end. So this means a CRC will actually have to spend 4 hours per day if they see 1 patient. And of course, you have to leave the CRC enough time for normal things such as lunch breaks, coffee breaks, and just a breather. You don't want them to get overloaded and burnt out, because you spend a lot of time training them, so you don't want them to leave a research site. And we do see a lot of coordinators being overworked, so we want to try to help you guys become more conscious of that and help them stay at the research site and have manageable workloads. Here's another scenario where you have a patient visit every second day. This is more likely to happen at sites, and what we mean by that is patients can vary. It's not going to be the same patient visiting every other day. It could be a variety of patients for the study coming in every other day, since maybe one day is the patient visit day, second days are internal task days. So just keep in mind how your patient visits are set up for your coordinators and for your research site. Third is multiple short patient visits per day. While these might last 10 to 15 minutes, remember there's about 3 times as much back-end work that the coordinator has to put in. So if they even see 3-4 patients a day, they're going to pretty much maximize their whole day in terms of work they have to do. So keep all these in consideration as you try to schedule out a CRC or figure out how many CRCs you need per study or at your research site and overall scheme. Try to really map out their workload and figure out their daily activities. Even ask them if you have to. They'll give you a good idea, they'll map it out, and then you can work with them to create a efficient workflow and try to systemize more of your workflow. So remember, checklists can be a big help in your SOPs, so definitely implement those strategically. And then remember, coordinators have to work in compliance. So if there's something wrong with the way site's operating, your monitors will notify you immediately, and CRCs are typically the first to know. And CRCs can be the ones who help you abide by GCP, good clinical practices, your standard operating procedures, which sponsors often look at when they do site initiation visits, and then the study protocol. So if they follow these steps, there won't be an issue with them succeeding. So make sure that your CRC's work is put into a QA system. Make sure QA is always on, which is quality assurance, to make sure all the data being tracked and inputted is accurate and as it should be recorded. So we always prefer and suggest to CRCs that they input data right after a patient visit, so there's no time for any discrepancies. So the workload of a CRC can vary from site to site based on how many patients seen, the complexity of the protocol, and just overall SOP setups, which stand for standard operating procedures again, and this will determine the workflow of a site. So keep these things all in mind as you assign more workload to a CRC, give them additional studies, or undertake even more patients. Thank you for watching. We hope this helps, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. Thank you.